It's part of Donald Trump telling, especially Mexico, but also Latin America, that if the cartels are killing 70,000 Americans a year and they're running up $171 billion surplus and 63 billion is going in remittances to Mexico and 65 billion to Central America from the 20 million illegal aliens that are sending money back for the most part, and they are being subsidized by the taxpayer for their health care, housing, food, etc., then you've got a real problem. It's about a quarter of $1 trillion is going out of the United States to Latin America and Mexico because of trade imbalances and because of the cartels and because of the remittances, and they don't show any appreciation at all. In fact, Ms. Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, has announced that she's going to provide legal services for illegal aliens that are arrested. She's attacked ICE and said it was brutal, and she's interfering in the affairs of the United States. So I can see why Trump is mad. My problem is not with the idea of bringing the cartels to heel, but the methods you will use in getting bogged down in these countries, which is not a good idea.
Victor Davis Hanson breaks down the collision between cartels, Mexico, and U.S. politics. A crisis that is not only about crime, but about sovereignty, economics, and demographics. With billions flowing south through remittances, trade imbalances, and cartel profits, America finds itself subsidizing the very forces destabilizing its own border. Meanwhile, sanctuary cities and partisan agendas complicate enforcement, turning law into a political weapon rather than a national standard. From immigration to the census, Hanson connects the threads of how American policy, weakness, and political gamesmanship create openings for adversaries. At stake is not just one border or one administration, but whether the United States can still defend its sovereignty in a world eager to test it.
Donald Trump is upset because the Mexican government basically says we have no control over it. We don't know how the Chinese send in fentanyl. We have no idea who the cartels are. And the truth is that they control about 50% of the Mexican government because of the huge amounts of money they make from the United States. I live 6 hours from the border, about 300 miles, and I can tell you that the cartels, M13, are very active in this area. They operate freely in our territory, and that people are very scared of them here that are Mexican citizens because they have the ability to call you on your cell phone and say, did you talk to the policeman? Don't you have a cousin or grandfather nearby? And we're talking 1,700 miles away in Michoacan or Oaxaca. They will tell somebody in Central Valley, if you cooperate or you turn in a gang member or you cooperate, we're going to go after some of your relatives. They know that. They have that type of information. And so I don't know how you stop it. The best way of stopping it is to fortify the border and cut off their smuggling income, which we did, which was several $billions a year. And then it's to go after them inside the United States and deport people. And of course, the left is in this Orwellian situation where they're protecting the first iteration of deportations. 75% of them are concentrated on the 5,000 criminal. And yet those are the people that the left is demonstrating on behalf of at these ICE stations. It's very easy to let in 10 to 12 million people, 10,000 a day. It's very hard to find them in a country of 340 million people. So the left's attitude toward the entire problem is, we felt that it was legal to break the law and let in 12 million people. And now we feel it's illegal to enforce the law. And therefore, even though we didn't audit these people, we have no idea who they were. We're going to give each one of them a hearing. We didn't have a hearing when they came in, but on the way out, it's part of the left's demographic agendas. They feel that these people are valuable to them as future voters, and then more importantly, in the present day census, they count residents, physical bodies, and therefore they determine the state's share of House of Representative seats based on the state's population. So they feel that they can swell Latin American people, Mexican people in these southwestern states. They will get more seats. It happened in California. California has 53 House seats, and then they feel they can redistrict. And we went 42% for Trump, and I think we have 21% representative because of their gerrymandering of the districts. So that's the real initiative why they're doing it. And it's an enormous cost. It's about $200 billion a year just in social services for them. And then there's 500,000 criminals that we know of out of the 12 million. And we don't know how to find them. And then we have 600 sanctuary cities jurisdictions that kind of have the old Confederate idea of federal nullification. They just say, in our domains, our jurisdictions, federal immigration law does not apply. So if we get a criminal and we arrest him, we're not turning him over to ICE if he's here illegally. The Democratic Party, I don't know to what degree they're citizens, they're foreign-born citizens, and therefore they're voting, but we know that a lot of people can vote through early voting and mail-in balloting. And so it's also a political question. Donald Trump had the highest percentage of the Hispanic vote at 55% of Hispanic males and 49% of the general demographic, and yet he won the 2024 election not by increasing. It really couldn't increase any more than 58% of the white vote. It was maxed out of the working and middle classes, but he won because of the Hispanic vote, and to a lesser degree the 26% of black males. So when nobody knows how they will react to that. Conventional wisdom says Hispanics get really angry when you go into Mexico. Unconventional wisdom says no, secretly they're happy because they are terrorized by cartels and gangs in the United States. So then Donald Trump came in and said he was going to have no nation building, no forever wars. But he was never an isolationist like the MAGA base or neo. He was a Jacksonian. So he said that we had lost deterrence because of the way we pulled out of Afghanistan and the way that they had attacked our exposed installation in Syria, 130 installations, bases, some of them, and we didn't do anything. So he said, I'm going to do what I did in my first term, where he got rid of the Wagner group that attacked us in Syria. He got rid of Soleimani, and there were no follow-ups to that. What was unusual about Donald Trump is when the Iranians contacted him after the death of Soleimani, they said, this is outrage. We need something. And he said, what do you need? And they said, we want to send some missiles at your base. Just get everybody in by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's what we did. So when he went into Iran, he was there in 35 minutes. And he didn't lose anybody. He got right back out. And then what was unusual, they did the same thing. They said, we've been humiliated. We're going to send 7 or 8 rockets into your big base at Qatar. And would you please not respond to it? And Trump said, if you don't kill anybody and it's a performance art act and you don't damage it, and they didn't kill anybody. The base was evacuated in advance. So what I'm getting, and then of course in typical Trumpian style, then he said, make Iran great again. The war is over. So every one of these interventions is not really a war. It's a restoration of deterrence. And if you look around the world, what he's doing with the Azerbaijanis and the Armenians, or the Congo and Rwanda, or what he did with India and Pakistan, and what he says about Ukraine. And believe me, he went politically as far as you could go in this country, chastising Ukraine as corrupt. They don't know what they're losing. And then he thought that his prior close relationship with Putin, and the fact that Putin had not left his borders during the 4 years of the first Trump administration, in contrast to the Bush administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration. He'd invaded Ossetia, Georgia, Donbass, Crimea, tried to take, but not during Trump's. So Trump then convinced himself when he came in that he fears me and he likes me, and he will cut a deal, as Trump said proverbially, on the first day of office. But what he didn't realize, he was giving up all leverage in negotiations. So now he, in art of the deal fashion, he's pivoted and said the only thing that Putin, he has that famous quote where he says, I went home and I told Melania, Putin's a great guy. I had a great talk with him. And she said he just bombed somebody last night and killed a bunch of civilians. And so I think what he's trying to do in Ukraine is he's trying to get leverage over Putin. And he's trying to say, we're going to still give them weapons and we're going to have a secondary boycott, which is actually very provocative and dangerous to the economy, and pressure Putin. And I think everybody understands that there are the outlines of a deal. Putin's going to tell the people that he has to report back to the oligarchic class that he lost 1 million dead, wounded, and missing, but he ensured that they're not going to get in NATO. That's kind of empty. I don't think they ever were. And then he's going to say, but I institutionalized the Donbass and I institutionalized the possession of the Crimea forever. And then he's going to say, I pushed the boundaries of Russia 30, 40, 50, 60 miles west. And we don't know where that magic DMZ line will be that he feels is sufficient to justify this blunder of going in there. But it's somewhere around 50, 60 to 100 miles that he wants to annex. And that's the sticking point. And I think what he's trying to say, what Putin's trying to do right now is to do enough damage and cause enough turmoil in Ukraine that he can go back and say, we won the war, they sued for peace, here's the new line, and we pushed Russia, thousands of square miles into Ukraine, and that will be the outline of a deal.
If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.